Okay. Some other lessons from the sort of world of blackjack. So are you guys familiar with Shane Battier? Any of you guys? He was a basketball player, played for about 9 different teams in the NBA. He does a lot of speaking now. He's a very smart guy, talks about analytics. And he tells this amazing kind of story about the first time that he convinced LeBron James to be data-driven. And he tells the story about how he said to him, hey, you're covering Kevin Durant today. And the data says that when he turns around to his right, he shoots about 23%, but when he turns around to his left, he shoots about 70%. So why don't you try to make him in this game shoot more to his right and see what happens? Okay, and it just so happened that day that Kevin Durant missed a lot of his shots going to his right. LeBron James shut him down. All of a sudden, LeBron James is a believer in analytics. But Shane tells this story, and it always concerns me. Because what would have happened if that day he just happened to make a lot of shots going to his right? Then all of a sudden, like, LeBron James no longer believes in analytics. So as you think about analytics and data, you want to focus on a big picture. You don't want to focus on a small data set. And as you try to convince people to be more data-driven, you don't want to boil it down to one decision. You want to say, hey, let's, over the next, if I were Shane, I would have said to LeBron, well, first of all, if I were Shane, I probably wouldn't be anywhere near a basketball court. But if I were talking to LeBron, I would say, hey, LeBron, next 10 times you play Kevin Durant, try to make him go around over his right, see what happens. So this idea of focusing on the big picture, I think, is another important lesson in analytics. So those of you guys that have played blackjack before, how many of you guys think you should ever split tens? Raise your hand if you think you should split tens. This is a highly educated gaming community. I hope no one is actually thinking of splitting tens. But imagine that I tell you you're counting cards. And counting cards is the knowledge of how many tens, face cards, and aces remain versus how many low cards remain. And imagine you have a pair of tens and the dealer has a 6-up, and you know almost every card that you haven't seen is a 10, a face card, or an ace. How many people think now you should probably split tens? Raise your hands. It's really hard to get participation at 9 a.m. in the morning. Okay, so there is a time when you split tens. The math says to you split tens, and it's a very difficult thing to do, but it's also very illustrative of some of the difficult decisions that we have to make in our lives. So there I am, Jeffrey the dealer, in case none of you believe me. I really did play a dealer in the movie. And I go into this casino at MGM, and I always have this to remind me of this difficult decision I make. I go into this casino at MGM Grand. I bet 2 hands of $8,000. First one I get a pair of tens, second one I get a blackjack, and the dealer has a 6-up. And as I scan the table, I realize that this is a hand that I should split. The dealer pays my blackjack, starts to go buy my 20, because who's going to split tens with $8,000 on the table? And I said, ma'am, I think I want to split those. And she said, you want to what? And I think I want to, and as I said it, I realized that I didn't really want to split those. I had this sinking pit in my stomach, and I didn't want to split them. And I wondered why. I knew the math said to split them. And I realized as I looked around the table, as I looked behind me, as I looked at the dealer, as I looked at the now crowd of people gathering around, that I didn't want to upset people. I was falling for something called groupthink, where I was making a decision to avoid conflict, to appease people. But they, around me, didn't have the technology, the data, the innovation that I had. And we face this all the times in our business lives, where we've done things a certain way, but all of a sudden now we know things that we didn't used to know. And so you can't be influenced by this concept of groupthink. You're going to have to make some unpopular decisions if you want to innovate. If you want to innovate in a space that's been around as long as gaming has, you have to be okay with upsetting some people. You can't avoid conflict. So I can't fall for groupthink. So the second thing I think about is even though I don't want to piss these people off, I still don't want to do this. And what I realized is that I don't want to split these tens because they are a winner. $8,000 is a winner. Why would I give up that winner? But here I am falling for something called loss aversion. As human beings, we're impacted more by a loss than we are by a gain of the same amount. The idea of losing scares us. And so we make bad decisions based on avoiding loss. So the classic example of this is when I moved to San Francisco, there was a company called Apple that was trading for 60. And we bought some Apple stock, like me and my buddies, because we all used Apple products. We're like, we should buy Apple stock. Apple stock goes from 60 to 120 in roughly 11 months. So we're like, awesome. My friends come to me and they say, hey, Jeff, we're going to sell our Apple stock. I said, why? I said, well, we don't want to be greedy. It just doubled in 11 months. Why would we just sell? Or do you think Apple's a buy or sell? We think it's still a buy, but we don't want to be greedy. We want to take our profits. Well, how do you think they feel now? There's another company in the Valley called Facebook. And I've told this story twice at Facebook. The second time I told this story, the first time I spoke there, they had 30 million users. The second time I spoke there, 13 months later, they had 500 million users. And as I told this story, I said, you guys are a perfect example. Now that you guys have 500 million users, are you guys going to take the same kind of risks? And before the words were out of my mouth, an executive from the back row named Shema screamed, hell yeah. He knew that they would still need to take risks to grow. And I'd say buying Oculus, buying WhatsApp for 17 billion, buying Instagram for $1 billion, those were all risks that have paid off. So I can't be loss averse. I got to do the right thing. I split my tens. Dealer gives me an ace on the first one, a 9 on the second one. Dealer flips a 10 to make 16, and then gets another 10 to make 26. I grab my $16,000 and my blackjack, my another $12,000, and I basically run away from the table because everyone at the table wants to kill me at this point. But making that difficult decision and understanding sort of how to overcome cognitive biases is a really important thing to me. So let's go back to this opening story. I'm sure all of you guys are wondering, like, oh no, what happened? Like, what happened? Did he? Well, it's all in my book, which is available on Amazon, so if you want to read it, you can. Okay, so I believe in math. I believe in data. I believe in the power of data. So here I am, just lost $50,000. The math calls for me to bet 3 hands of $10,000. So I do because I believe in math. First one I get a 9 against a 6. Double that down to get a queen to make 19. 19 I stand. Ace-4 against a 6 is actually another hand that you need to double down by basic strategy. So I do. I double that down. I get a 4 to make 19. I have 19, 19, 19 against the dealer's 6. Here's my chance to win back everything I just lost. Right? I have another $50,000 on the table. And the only reason I'm in this situation is because how stubbornly I believe in process, and I believe in the philosophy of what we're doing. So here's my chance. I'm going to win back this woman's house. The dealer flips a king to make 16, my triumphant moment, and gets a 5 to make 21. So I lose another $50,000. I am crushed. I stumble up to my room at Caesars, collapse on the floor, stare up at the ceiling, wonder to myself, why is there a mirror up there? But I was 21 years old. I had no idea. So as I'm sitting there, I'm like, do people lie in bed and get ready? That's weird. So as I'm sitting there and thinking this through, I think about what do I want to do next. And I think, like, God, I don't really want to play anymore. Maybe I'll just put this decision off. But that would be falling for omission bias. I can't do that. And I started thinking about this idea of, like, not playing because I don't want to lose anymore. I just lost, but that's being loss averse. And then I started thinking about the big picture, like focus on the big picture. Well, over the course of my blackjack career, I'd actually done quite well. So why get my influence by one decision? And then I also think about, like, had I made the right decision and just suffered a poor outcome, or had I made a poor decision? And I'm actually pretty clear that I made the right decision. So I went back down, and actually I've told this story a variety of times, and the time I told it about 3 or 4 years ago was this sort of pinnacle moment for me. I was speaking at a VC conference that this guy Vinod Khosla puts on, and the speaker before me that day was a guy by the name of Bill Gates, so I was very intimidated to be speaking. And as I got to the story, Vinod, who put this on, he's sort of a legendary VC, he steps up and raises his hand and says, "I don't believe you." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I don't believe you. How could you? How could you have doubted yourself? How could you have thought about quitting? I don't believe you thought about quitting." And he's kind of right. I didn't ever really consider quitting. Because I fundamentally believe in our process. I fundamentally believe that you have to deal with adversity and overcome loss and embrace failure to become better. And these are all the types of things that I learned from my time as the MIT Blackjack team. So I went back down and I kept playing. And over the next 2 days, I won back $100,000. And the last day I was there, I won back another $70,000. And that moment is what I consider to be my seminal moment of like why I believe in data, why I believe in analytics, and why I've become a relative success in life. So thank you guys for the time. I've enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you.